tonight has an incredible lineup of authors, and importantly, it has all of us, everyone here tonight who came together out of love of literature and books, the WTAW community. So thanks again for being here, everybody. And before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about my relationship with Why There Are Words. So I'm Michael Dubon, and I'm your MC for the evening, and thank you all for having me. Um, just a little bit about my background. I'm a first generation US citizen. My parents are from Guatemala. They immigrated to Northern Nevada in the 80s, where I was born. Um, and I'm also a writer. My poetry has appeared in The Meadow, Rising Phoenix Review, and Museum of Americana, and my creative nonfiction has appeared in Under the Gum Tree, Plentitudes, and Heartwood. Currently working on publishing my memoir, The Dubonicals, and my chapbook of poetry, Yesterday. So, in terms of my relationship with WTAW, what it means to me, I think WTAW is all about, in the sense of community, people coming together, their love of reading, writing, and supporting writers and supporting each other overall. And I think that's so important because as we all know, right, writing is such a lonely job. So it's so great to be able to have a community to share our writing and support each other and cheer each other on and celebrate all our hard work. I first encountered WTAW while I was completing my MFA in creative writing at St. Mary's in Moraga, California, and I was helping put together the WTAW live reading events. And what was struck me then, which just what strikes me now too, is that, I just was astounded and, being from a small town in northern Nevada, that there were spaces like this where writers could come together and share their great work and just be there for each other and just vibe with the best vibes. And so today I live in Washington, in Everett, Washington, and I teach at Everett Community College as tenure track English faculty. And I'm super grateful to be able to still be part of WTAW and be here virtually supporting WTAW. So before we begin, here's a few little housekeeping tidbits and announcements. Just remember to keep your sound muted throughout the readings. We all have pets and animals and children and lots of other sounds going around, so just remember to keep those microphones muted. If you click the speech bubble icon, it will open the Zoom chat box. We'll post information about each author and links to their books there. So keep an eye out for all the great conversations happening in the chat. And I encourage you to have conversations in the chat about the readings and great readings you're hearing. So comment, give snaps and applause to the emojis, and just interact throughout the event because we want it to be interactive. And again, just to have everybody feel like they're part of the community because y'all are. We want to hear from you. So moving on. Another announcement, as a humble thank you for everyone joining us tonight, we're also offering a special discount to everyone here for our online shop. It's a 20% off any title through August with the discount code SUMMER24. And Maggie Whitehead, our awesome press assistant, is going to be putting things in the chat just like that discount code. So you'll find that discount code in the chat. And so WTAW Press is going strong since the launch of our first books in 2017, and it's in no small part thanks to your support. Along with other small independent presses, the unexpected shuttering of SPD distribution came as a serious blow this spring and underscored to us just how crucial the support from our community is. However, we're delighted to report that WTAW books will now be distributed by IPG, which constitutes a significant upgrade. And on that note, we're grateful for the support that got us through this, and we welcome your contributions anytime. You can rest assured that every contribution is meaningful and helps support the creation and maintenance of this great literary community. The Kevin McLavoy Book Prize will open later this fall. The prize is for full-length books of prose. The winning entry will receive $2,500, publication, contract, and 25 books. All entries will be considered for publication, and stay tuned for further details on that. And lastly, we're thrilled to announce that the inaugural title from WTAW's new imprint, Betty Books, Books by Women for Everyone, is now available for pre-order. Janice Hupschman's story collection, Take Me With You Next Time, comes out October 15th, and I cannot recommend it enough. So, with that being said, we're excited to feature our following readers for tonight, these amazing authors. And we'll start with Grace Lowe Prasad, who is the author of The Translator's Daughter, a debut memoir about living between languages, navigating loss, and the search for belonging. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Long Reads, The Offing, Hyperallergic, Catapults, Quora, and elsewhere. A member of the Writers Grotto and the AAPI Writers Collective, 17 Syllables, Prasad lives in the Bay Area. So please welcome Grace, everybody.
Hi, Grace. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Michael. And huge thanks to Peg and to Maggie and everyone who had a hand in putting this reading together. And everyone, all of you who are part of the WTAW extended community. So, and I appreciate you being here. It's the first day of August, also known as Faugust, in the Bay Area. And I'm going to be actually not reading from this book, but this is my book cover. This is the Translator's Daughter. It came out in March, so it's a few months old, and I continue to go through the journey as a debut author and memoirist. And today I actually have a new piece that I will be sharing an excerpt from. It was published today in Panorama Journal. Maybe some of you have heard of it. And it's called Dreaming in Diaspora. So I want to invite you all to take a breath, imagine you're holding my hand, and come join me in dream space for a few minutes. Thank you. I have always been a dream collector, someone who pays attention to dreams, writes them down, looks them up, and tries to interpret their messages. When you live far away from the people and places you love, dreams are not random. They are a necessity, a way to overcome distance, to reunite with kin, to visit past lives, to weave yourself into the story. A dream is a vessel for time travel, a way to return to comfort and wholeness before separation, before the heavy curtain of grief. I'm going to skip ahead here, so bear with me. In 2017, 7 years after he left us, I dreamed that I saw my brother, Ted. In the dream, he is youthful and smiling, although he needs a haircut. I don't remember our conversation, but we hug at the end. Although it is unspoken, I know it's the last time I'll see him. We both know he is going to die. And yet it was beautiful. It's the goodbye we should have had. In real life, we did not have a beautiful goodbye. Ted was critically ill for the last months of his life, his liver racked by cancer that had spread to his other organs. I made an emergency trip to Bangkok to see him, and my dad flew in from Taipei. But my timing was off. Ted passed away while my airplane was somewhere over the Pacific. I arrived too late. He left behind 3 children enrolled in a private school they could not afford, and a widow who had no reliable source of income. Instead of a farewell, what awaited us was the funeral and the crisis of what came next. Despite this, my dream about my brother was suffused with love and happiness. It felt so peaceful. Perhaps my dream was trying to compensate for the way things actually unfolded, for the pain of how he left us. There are many theories about the meaning and purpose of dreams. Some say dreams are the nocturnal residue of one's waking life, the brain's way of sorting through mundane experiences, like the paper receipts that accumulate in my purse, bits of meaning that are no longer relevant and can be discarded. But a purse is never just a purse, and I rarely dream about my everyday conscious life. I almost never dream about my husband and son. I used to find this troubling until I realized that my dreams serve an entirely different purpose. For me, dreams are how I navigate the conflicts and contradictions I can't solve in the physical world, a way to mend symbolically what in real life cannot be fixed. I am suspicious of anyone who says they don't dream. To me, it's as shocking as not having a passport. I can't imagine living in only one dimension, having my entire community contained and close by without the complications of borders, languages, and time zones. What is it like to live so effortlessly, to communicate without struggle, to belong without trying? What is it like to never have to answer the question, where are you from? It's taken me a lifetime to embrace the complexity of living in two timelines, here and there, conscious and unconscious. In my 20s, I had a recurring dream that I kept receiving letters I could not read. I used to rent a mailbox at the student union at UC Berkeley, which served as my permanent address while I was in college. No bigger than a carton of eggs, this locked box was my only source of stability as I switched apartments and roommates almost every semester. Unlike my classmates, I had no other home base in the States, since my family had moved abroad when I was 9. After spending my early childhood in New Jersey, my family moved to Hong Kong, where I graduated from high school. Then, when I was halfway through university, my parents moved back to Taiwan, their permanent home and the place where I was born. In my recurring dream, I am walking down the hallway of the student union toward a wall of tiny mailboxes. I turn the key in the lock and pull out letters in thin airmail envelopes with red and blue dashed borders, the kind my parents used to send me. But when I open the letters, the text is faded and illegible. The message is lost. Later in life, my anxiety dream changed to one where I was traveling and pleasantly immersed in a different landscape, admiring the architecture of a European city or sitting on a magnificent beach. But the trip takes a dark turn when I realize that I've lost my purse with my wallet and passport in it. It's never clear how it happens. I just suddenly don't have my purse and begin to panic that I am alone in a foreign country with no money or identification. I can't prove who I am, and I can't go home. In more recent dreams, I still have my cell phone, but I am unable to text or email my parents. I press send and nothing happens, or I keep searching but can't find my dad's number. No matter what I do, the technology fails and my message doesn't go through. I'm stranded and feel as though I've crossed a threshold where I can't be found. My body is tense with dread, fear, and sadness. And then I wake up. It's not hard to guess what this recurring dream means. Ever since I was young, I've loved the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, The Little Mermaid. I identified with the mermaid, of course, and with the feeling of being shipwrecked, lost and unaccompanied in a foreign place, beyond the reach of my family and with no way to return. It's bizarre and embarrassing to say it out loud that in my dreams, I'm like a foundling in a fairy tale, a child with no parents and no history. My parents did not abandon me, but they did not follow me either. I've always been the one to go to them. My hero's journey has been a quest for reunion, pushing through obstacles to find my way back. After my brother and parents passed away, I felt adrift and unmoored from Taiwanese heritage, language, and culture, the very things I had spent years trying to build my connection with. An abstract longing, the basic condition of diaspora, was replaced by a visceral grief and loneliness that I wasn't sure anyone else would understand. so I did my best to put it into words. One essay at a time, I tried to answer the question, who am I without my parents to connect me to my origins? Over time, my writing grew and evolved into what would become The Translator's Daughter, my memoir about language loss and displacement, and finding my way forward as a daughter of diaspora. Reckoning with my complicated identity and the circumstances that led to my family's dispersal helped me come to terms with my decision to stay in California, raise my son here, and cultivate a different kind of belonging. In 2021, when I was getting ready to submit the book, I had the travel dream again, but it ended differently. It started with me walking down a cobblestone street in a foreign city, trying to decide which bakery to visit for an afternoon snack, when I realized my purse was missing. My enjoyment gave way to panic, and I quickly retraced my steps and ended up in a book and stationery store. I talked to the shopkeeper, a kind Asian woman close to my age, and described my bag to her, a black nylon backpack with a white floral pattern. She went into a back room, found my purse, and set it on the counter between us. Is this what you are looking for? My eyes met hers, and I could feel my heart pounding. But before I could say anything, I woke up. I was so surprised and excited that I couldn't fall back asleep. I couldn't believe it. After all these years of trying to reconnect and find my way back, I managed to change the narrative of a recurring nightmare. My dreams made it possible for me to rewrite my ending. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thanks, virtual applause and praise for Grace. Thank you. Um, our next reader is Molly Giles, who is an award-winning fiction writer whose debut memoir, Lifespan, was published this spring by WTAW Press. She has published 5 story collections, Rough Translations, Creek Walk, Bothered, All the Wrong Places, Wife with Knife, and 2 novels, Iron Shoes and The Home for Unwed Husbands. She's taught creative writing for many years at both San Francisco State University and the University of Arkansas. Her work has been anthologized by the O. Henry Prize and Pushcart Prize and has been supported by the National Endowment for the Arts, the Arkansas Arts Council, MacDowell, Yaddo, and the House of Literature in Paros, Greece. She was born in San Francisco and lives in Woodcare. Please welcome Molly.
Thank you so much, Michael. And thanks to Peg and Maggie and everybody who's been here. And Grace, I loved it. So thank you for that. I am going to read also from a memoir. This memoir is going to covers my life, which is long, starting when I was 3. And I'm going to read 2 sections, one from 2016 when I was 74 and convinced I would never need love in my life again. And then from 2017, when things had started to change. So every section is set on the Golden Gate Bridge or has some reference to the Golden Gate Bridge, which is why the title, Lifespan. So here I am on the bridge in a typical commute time, 2016. The drive to the city gets worse every week, and today, even the postcard views of bay, bridge, island, and sky can't make up for the traffic jam. 5 minutes past 6, it looks like I'll be late for therapy again. Last week, Dr. J was writing a grocery list when I arrived, and the week before, she was looking out the window, her hands in her lap. Her expression as she turned to me was serene, expectant. "What shall we talk about today?" she asked. She needn't ask, because for the 3 weeks I've been seeing her, we always talk about the same thing, the traffic. How stuck I feel, not just in traffic, in life. How depressed, pissed off, resentful, helpless, restless, guilty, worried, distrustful, scared, envious, lonely, bored, etc. Since I retired from teaching, I'm getting dotty. I sing "Hello, Dolly" to the cat. swear at the computer, apologize to the table when I bump my hip against it, yell at the television when Trump comes on, scold the toaster. Why did you burn that? Weep over strangers' obituaries in the newspaper, laugh when a sliver of soap I'm trying to catch slips out of my hands in the bathroom sink. Oh, look, it's playing with me. Circle around my empty house, hunting for wallet, cell phone, keys. My agent is about to give up trying to sell my novel, and I'm drinking again. Not much, just 1 glass of wine a night, but I can't trust that to last. I need something soon, but I don't know what. You need a partner, Dr. J decides. I shake my head. A partner is the last thing I need. The idea of someone underfoot all the time, hogging the television, adjusting the thermometer, crowding me in the kitchen, breathing next to me in bed, no thanks. Someone intelligent, Dr. J muses, someone quick-witted and creative, maybe from New York. You want me to have an affair with your husband? Dr. J doubles her pretty chin down, covers her mouth, and turns away. She hates letting me see her laugh. You're going to meet someone soon, Dr. J says. I'm sure of it. Meeting someone isn't the problem, I point out. Liking someone I meet who likes me back is the problem. You'll be fine. Oh, right. I should just be myself. No! Her response is so explosive that I laugh. Dr. J looks surprised too. That makes me laugh again. She has never been this honest. You don't think I should be myself? No, she is serious. You think I should pretend to be pleasant and cheerful and sweet? Why not? You are all those things. Why not show it? Because it's dull. Well, to you, maybe. Other people, men, wouldn't find it dull. You'd be surprised. Yes, I agree. I would. She studies me. You're ready. Whether you know it or not, you're ready. For what, exactly? For love. Love? Even the word embarrasses me. I shake my head. Too late. It's never too late, Dr. J says. Trust me. Driving home from our appointment, I scan the pedestrian walkway of the bridge, as I always do, on guard for potential jumpers. Some solitary man or woman hooded in the fog, lingering too long by one of the towers before dropping their purse or their wallet to the sidewalk to climb over the railing. I dread seeing this, and with over 2,000 jumpers to date, the odds that I might are not small. I have no idea how I would save someone perched on the edge. Could I offer the same sort of panacea that Dr. J holds out? I doubt it. I shudder thinking of the bridges, slippery grids, inadequate barriers, and still uncompleted suicide net. Suicide magnet, my friend Michael once called it. Michael, who claimed he heard voices insisting he stop the car and jump. Michael, who needed biofac therapy in order to simply drive to work. I think of Chris, that sad boy, and my friend's son Jay, that brilliant newspaper editor, and Heidi's bedridden father, crippled at 40. I remember the horror stories of the man who threw his 3-year-old daughter over before jumping himself, and the woman who leapt with her dog in her arms. Leapt. I puzzle this. Does anyone actually leap? Jump up and out into the empty air with their arms spread wide? I doubt it. I think people dangle and kick and then drop for an endless 4 seconds, then hit the water 200 feet below as if hitting cement. It's a hard way to die. And why? L'appel du vide, the French call it, the call of the void. I'm not sure that this is a feeling, sweet, kind, Dr. J knows anything about. And as the fog swirls around me, full of its ghosts, I shudder again. And this is a year later, 2017. San Miguel de Allende, purple hibiscus. Is that right? No, it's not. I'm sorry. We're going back to 2017, wrong date. Okay, this is 2017. I am sitting with Ralph on the veranda at Cabello Point in the Golden Gate recreational area, my suggestion for where to meet, and Ralph is pleased since he's never been here before. He likes going places he's never been before, and since he's been to so many places, I'm glad I was able to please him. He gestures toward the view of bay and bridge and asks if I like sailing. I consider my answer. I like being on a boat, but I don't actually know how to sail. Have you ever gone under the bridge? A memory of sailing under it once with an English novelist whose dog liked me more than he did prompts another considered answer, this one a lie. No, I never have. We'll have to go sometime. Ralph says nothing more about sailing, but I learn about his childhood, his dyslexia, his swimming medals, his stint in the Navy, his time in Kenya in the Peace Corps, his PhD, his career in school administration, his first years of retirement spent living on a boat in the Caribbean. He's 3 years older than me, born under the sign of Leo, an only child. He was married for over 40 years to a beautiful Russian woman who passed away 7 years ago. They had no children. He owns a small house in San Francisco and recently broke up with a woman who was horrified when he confessed to occasionally having suicidal thoughts. Really? I interrupt. I can't go near a cliff without wanting to throw myself over the edge, a blurt which elicits a pause and then a polite nod from Ralph. He wears hearing aids and may not have heard me. To continue, he's currently seeing a left-wing journalist from Berkeley who used to write exposés on the Black Panthers. Last year, he went on a swim trek to the Greek islands and a dive trip to Nicaragua. He's about to leave in a few weeks to visit old friends in New Zealand. Alone? He nods. And later this summer, he is going to swim Lake Zurich with a woman he met on that swim trek in Greece. We order our hamburgers, his rare, mine medium, and eat them slowly in the pale winter sunshine. I pick a potato chip off my lip as I listen to Ralph's deep, slow voice, my eyes drifting past him to the bridge, which shines long and lean in the distance. He says, and things like that a lot. And he hasn't asked me a single question about myself. He is shorter than I am, has capped teeth and flat feet, but he has nice hands, broad shoulders, a full head of silver hair, warm brown eyes, and that wide open, trusting smile like a 3-year-old's. He is, I realize, nice, a nice man. I decide to ask him a question I failed to ask Dan, Richard, Ken, or Mike. Have you ever declared bankruptcy? Ralph blinks. No, why? Just curious. When it's time to go, we shake hands, agree it was fun, and walk off toward our cars in different directions. I don't look back, and I'm sure he doesn't either. It was a pleasant lunch, but there was no spark. And anyway, he is dating someone else. There's no need to ever see him again, and I probably won't. But still, that smile. I drive away smiling myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly, and please virtual applause and praise for Molly. Our next reader is Therese Swoboda, who is a Guggenheim winner and the author of over 20 books of poetry, fiction, biography, memoir, and translation. She has won the Bopst Prize in Fiction, the Iowa Poetry Prize, an NEH Translation Grant, the Gray Wolf Nonfiction Prize, Jerome Foundation and NEA Media Grants, the O. Henry Award for the short story, and the Pushcart Prize for the essay. 3-time winner of the NYFA Fellowship. She's been awarded Headlands, James Merrill, Yaddo, McDowell, Bogliasco Hermitage, Hawthornden, and Bellagio residencies. Her opera, Wet, premiered in LA's Disney Hall. The New York Times Book Review just featured her latest books, Roxy and Coco and The Long Swim, in a full-page review. And Roxy was selected as one of the 8 recommended books of the season. Please welcome Therese, everybody.
Hi. First of all, I want to say, run, do not walk, and get Molly's book. It's just wonderful. I had the privilege of following year by year as it developed, and it was just fabulous. Thank you, WTAW, for this opportunity to read. Roxy and Coco is about 2 harpies who want to save the world. And they are social workers who think the way to do it is through preventing the abuse of children. So it's about extinction, species diversity, and child abuse, and it's funny. I like the way Harpy sounds. It has a kind of harp-like angelic appeal, the music of heaven. Otherwise, we don't have any closer connection to the spiritual than a fat swallow recording on a Sunday. If humans catch us gliding overhead, a whoosh of beak and feather and claw, why, it keeps them alert, and the distraction might stop them from killing each other for a few minutes. So maybe we are angels, whoever they are, except for the violence I find myself drawn to. Roxy's a little more patient than I am and tries to rein me in, but it's not much use. I'm attracted to certain unsavory practices. Coco, Coco, she says, you have to rethink this. And it's only been a week. I bang my way into the house, and the baby we're supposed to pick up is lying across the radiator. I mean, he's wedged between the wall and the top of the radiator, the steam around him visible. Despite the heat, his top half is blue. He's half frozen, being naked, and there's pee dripping to the floor. Of course, he's crying. Maybe in some drug-induced haze, the parents thought this was the only way to keep him warm. I pick him up, and he's got hatch marks up his back where the skin is singed. I played with this kid for an hour yesterday. He likes peekaboo. He likes tickling. I balance him backward on my hip and take a cell phone picture of the burns. Evidence. I find a shirt lying around and wrap him in it. Not tight. He screams worse now, but he has to stay warm. I should bring him out to the van right away, but I don't. I follow the music. It blares concert loud from a speaker in the room at the end of the hall, where I find the parents asleep, fully dressed. Correction, half dressed, the girl not quite on the bed. I take another picture. The baby's crying gets fierce, almost drowns out the music. Nobody stirs. I step into the center of the room and shrug off my jacket so my wings span 8 feet, tipped with claws, cut off the window light. The baby in my arms stops crying. I hiss. The girl opens her eyes, takes one look at me, and screams. The guy is up on his feet, scuffling back against the wall. I cut the music. What's the problem? Stewie shouts from the front door. We've got 3 more stops. I hiss again. She says she's seeing things, hallucinations. Be right there, says Stewie, coming down the hall. My wings zip like a convertible, closing between my shoulders. My jacket's back on by the time he walks in. The baby starts up again. I must have jostled him. Careful, he's burned, I say, but he quiets the second Stewie takes him. He gives the parents the once-over. I saw something, the girl protests. She's pointing at me, her arm shaking. Dazed is not a strong enough word. The guy's jaw covers his Adam's apple. We have to get the baby to emergency, I say. These 2 are nuts. No, really. Both of us saw her, she says. The baby's crying obliterates whatever the guy's saying. We've got to go, says Stewie. The girl is now wagging her head as if to clear it. Drunk and psychotic, I say. Write that down. Maybe that will get the kid a better deal. And I'll read to you also a short story called The Hate. And because you're from San Francisco, some of you, you know that it's H-A-I-G-H-T. It isn't as if we are close. Only her sweater is. It still has her shape from so much of her in it before I took it. I left first, and I knew what cold could await me. That she might leave too was not my problem. She had a place with my mother. She painted my mother's nails. She stood behind her couch and pressed her fingers into her forehead for headaches. I made up so little of that life, I figured they wouldn't miss me. I figured her sweater as a souvenir of what I wouldn't miss. Her underwear, too, a baseball cap. I took enough of her things so I didn't look her up a year later when I barefooted it through her town, or at least the town where Mom said a boy with airbrushed tattoos and teeth you could count had taken her. I had had enough of those boys myself, let alone the sweater I had worn and worn without looking her up and saying, I'm sorry. It's the least you could do, said my mother, but I did less. After another year passed and hunger wasn't as new as all the other new things, I happened again to visit her town, and Mom said, just check up on her. I haven't heard boo from her for 6 months. But I didn't. I said, I work now. I conference all day, and at night I sleep hard, which wasn't all true. I was stuffing computer specs into the trash instead of smiling cow-eyed at brochure-laden retailers wearing actual patent leather, then getting wasted at night at concerts, and at last laid by nobody business. I was tired. The next time I flew, I was up to my neck in green screens, a look-see so new most of them were cardboard. Mom didn't care to hear about my trials ordering those screens for all of my 24 clients. She said when she herself had flown there, the address was all wrong. It could not be right, and she found out nothing. She must have moved, I said. She knows where you live, I said. You're the only one to find her. You look like her, she said. I would recognize myself if I saw me, I said. She went quiet. I don't have that sweater with me, I laughed my best fake laugh. I need the sweater as a lure. That Mom should still be bothering after all my sister's silence, and not mine, hurt me. Who says one sister and another makes two together? When you consider I was searching for a livelihood and someone to keep it lively all those years after, I was busy. Mom kept busy knitting more sticking sweaters, not for me. And for Mom, time was just a stitch dropped or another color of yarn. Then music we heard before came back, like we were always tuned in, but turned down. But my sister didn't. No letters with postmarks stained from rain or backed up sinks left any kind of trail. No phone calls rang, charges reversed. There were no phone calls at all. The silence continued like a skip at the end of an old 78, a silence even I had to notice. Did anyone know where the Tattoo King had come from, exactly where he might leave for? I asked. He ordered pizza to go, and your sister went with it, said my mother. She ordered the pizza like it would bring her back, got old with that pizza and didn't eat it, made phone calls and aggravation and sweaters, and then died without a word from my sister. I cut my hair short the way she wouldn't. I kept away from pools and mirrors of all kinds, so I didn't think, who else, when I looked. But now crowds crowd around in the new malls with glimpses of my sister everywhere. I decide I must go. I must find her. I must ask her what she thinks she is doing. The Haight is a place where someone like her with a pizza eater of tattoos and few teeth would end up at. That's what my mother always said about that town that all the buses led up to. Look at the map and the cost of those buses, the kind of girl she surely turned into as soon as she left us. So I go right to that spot and I put up and look at what pictures there are. The man at emergency pleads innocent, nada, no computers back then except for salary, and the police asks about tracks. Did she have them? They didn't lead to us, is all that I answer. The sweater I stole still fits me. I'm looking for myself, I tell people. We have the same features. People smile and shake their heads. A lot of you came here, they say. The street was full of you, in and on it. People slept on people, humped here and there in the dark lights someone was always making here, the bulbs out all over. You couldn't walk the street like you do now from one end to the corner. What I find out after all these years is that anyone could be her. one of those with her head down, with no reason other than not to be seen, or with her head too far up, a big bird flying away with her brain. A dog that is hers, or could be, can't find a hydrant, he is so old. I take a place over the street, and I watch that dog every day walk past my window. If she still comes to sprawl, one jeaned leg crossed over the other, the way girls her age did then this is where to watch. Otherwise, it's just a block not too far from a park. I sit at that window in her sweater, and she has my life now. Bangs, a girl, boy, girl, wearing an apron no woman still young should wear, with Mexican shoes and green leather, and a husband who worked so hard he died early and left money. Or maybe she's not me. She could be the woman next door who moved out before I could ask about her tattoo and the pizza. Or she could sell cars at a lot down the street during the hours I sleep. Police and the places that follow her kind of problem still send me papers. See the papers? My mother had so many that the heat of their fire took the hair off my arms. They send me more papers whenever I ask about her, so I'm sure there's someone with the same name doing something, but not her. Hate means hate, my sister getting even. It's just a sweater, I say. She didn't have it that long before I left. To find me? To be me. Surprise. They say memory is all you are after you die. She's done me one better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Therese. Please virtual applause and praise for Therese. And our last reader of the night is Zach Rogo, who is the award-winning author, editor, and translator of more than 20 books and works for the theater. His memoir, Hugging My Father's Ghost, was released in 2024 by Spiking DeVille Publishing. Zach's dad was also a writer, and in the memoir, Zach attempts to solve the mystery of the father he never knew. Zach's play, Colette Uncensored, had its first stage reading at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and ran in London, Indonesia, Catalonia, San Francisco, and Portland. The most recent of his 9 poetry collections, Irreverent Litanies, was published by Regal House. Please welcome Zach.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you, Peg Alfred Purcell and Why There Are Words for inviting me to take part in this reading. Molly, I need to know Dr. J's phone number and whether she takes my health insurance. My book, as Michael was saying, is called Hugging My Father's Ghost. Here it is, and these are pictures of me and my dad at a photo booth. And it's one memoir about someone I hardly knew, my dad, Lee Rogo. My father was a widely published fiction writer. He was the drama critic for The Hollywood Reporter in New York City. He was a glamorous man about town in Manhattan of the 1950s, captain of a submarine chaser ship in World War II, and he died tragically in a plane crash when I was only 3 years old. For many years, grief kept me from thinking about him. Maybe being a dad myself gave me more access to my father, and I started to research his life in this book. In this memoir, I try to solve the mystery of who my father really was. I quilt together his confidential writings that never saw the light of day, imaginary conversations between me and my dad, vintage photos from World War II and the 1950s, interviews with friends who knew him. The book reveals intriguing secrets about the couple I knew as my godparents growing up and their complex connections to my own parents. My dad was a really funny guy, so this book blends laugh out loud humor with sharp pathos. I tell the tale of my family, immigrants who struggled to contribute to North American culture, but in their own way, despite the pressures of assimilation. I think there are a lot of common themes with Grace's book here too. My father was only 23 years old when he enlisted in the US Navy during World War II. He'd never even set foot on a boat before, except the ferry from Hoboken, New Jersey to New York City. He was part of a group called the 90-Day Wonders because they went through a rigorous training that took them from raw recruits to naval officers in only 3 months. I'm going to read you a couple of short passages from the journal that my dad kept. How he got a typewriter on board that boat and kept writing during all this is beyond me, but they're only a small number of pages, but they're really interesting to read. So he talks at one point about the ocean and the sound of the ocean on the boat. Its noise is with you always, part splashing, part sighing and moaning, part gurgling, hissing, roaring. You don't hear it most of the time. And at night, it becomes insistent in the quiet. Its motion is with you always. In bed, it rocks you. And I get the feeling that my bed is detached from the ship and floating with the motion of the sea. Also in the journal, my dad writes about his girlfriend at the time, who was a nightclub singer named Sugar, part of this couple who I knew as my godparents growing up. My dad writes, I thought of Sugar in Bermuda, and I thought I'd write her a letter saying, when I go to bed, my last waking thought is of you. And when I lean on the rail and look at the yellow moon on its light and its light upon the waters, my thought is of you. I remember you in your black dress when we sat on my raincoat on the lawn at Grossinger's until 5 a.m., and how I put the coat around my shoulders and went leaping around the lawn. I remember you in that white terry cloth bathrobe and how your face looked up at me when I kissed you last. And I remember how I nearly swooned against the wall of the bachelor officers' quarters lounge when I said, I'm crazy for you. And you said, and I'm crazy for you. Perhaps I will write all that to you one day or tell it to you, but I will save it for now. So when I read that passage in my dad's journal, I found out that he was a person who could express all the feelings in his heart. And that was so unusual for men in those days when almost every male writer was trying to out Hemingway. And there had to be either a gun or a fishing rod in every book or story that a male writer wrote. So one of my dad's classmates in this 90-Day Wonder officer training was the writer Herman Wouk, author of the novel The Caine Mutiny. The Caine Mutiny was the first book by a Jewish American author to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. One surprise that I found out in writing this book is that the main character of that novel was based on my dad. But my father was also a book reviewer. And interestingly, he was assigned by the prestigious publication, the Saturday Review, to review Herman Wouk's novel, The Caine Mutiny. And he gave his friend's book a somewhat negative review. He criticized the book's defense of the dictatorial captain who's overthrown in the eponymous mutiny. So in my memoir, I imagine conversations involving my dad because I don't have really very much to go on. And one conversation I imagine is the one that took place at the moment when my father runs into Herman Wouk for the first time after giving his friend's novel a negative review. So the scene takes place at a cocktail party on Fire Island, a resort near New York City, and it begins with my mom and dad. And my mom says to my dad, nice party, huh? And my father responds, well, if you like having great martinis on a patio, overlooking the ocean around sunset and stimulating conversation with brilliant and funny people. Myself, I'd rather be starting a shift in a coal mine. And that was the kind of humor he had, this kind of ironic humor. And my mom says, don't look now, Lee, but isn't that Herman Wouk bearing down on you? I think I'm going to get some of those delicious hors d'oeuvres at that table way at the other end of the patio. Can I get you anything? And my father says, just a shield and a helmet. My mother says, blame the review on me. So exit my mother, enter Herman Wouk. Well, if it isn't Lee Rogo. I don't know if you remember me. I'm your neighbor here on Fire Island. We were buddies in 90-Day Wonder School. I'm a fellow writer and our kids play together. And my father says, you look vaguely familiar. And Herman Wouk says, so, been writing any pieces lately for the Saturday Review? And my father says, look, Herman, I was all set to give your novel a great review. I'd written a draft, and then Mickey read the book, and she insisted that it needed a more nuanced treatment. And Herman says, nuanced? You mean the way a knife in the back is nuanced? And my father says, like the umpire says, Herman, I calls them as I sees them. And Herman says, well, fortunately, the fans never agree with the umps. And my father comes back with, what do the fans say about the writers who use the private information that their buddies tell them about their girlfriends in 90-Day Wonder School? And Herman says, oh, come on, Lee. You're a writer. You know, we're magpies. We grab any shiny object and take it to our nest. And my father says, it seems to me like you've been taking many shiny objects to the bank lately. How many weeks has the Caine Mutiny been at the top of the Times bestseller list? And Herman says, sorry, lost count, 33. And my father says, so what are you doing for an encore? Don't tell me you're adapting the novel for Hollywood. And Herman says, actually, I am. I just hope you're not planning to review the movie. So the negative passages in my dad's review do not seem to have ended the friendship between him and Herman Wouk, interestingly. And I wonder whether Herman, on some level, respected the fact that my dad gave his book a balanced review rather than just a friendly pat on the back, and respected him enough to do that. And that my father took him seriously as a writer. In the end, Herman Wouk delivered the eulogy at my dad's funeral. And he also wrote a glowing tribute to my dad after his death in the Saturday Review, the same publication where my father had sharply criticized him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zach. Please virtual applause and praise for Zach. And as we wrap up our reading and event for the evening, I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for being here. And thank you to all the wonderful authors for the amazing